Since there's been a lot of conversation around agent value, I figured it would be a good idea to just kind of go into some of the things that we bring to the table since we live, breathe, sleep real estate all the time. So as an agent, I think one of the major things is our connections with other vendors that help along the way. A lot of times people want to use their own bank or whatever they know for lending, for example, and that's not always the best option. I mean, local lenders, they know our market, especially we're such a huge condo market, and they're very familiar with all the rules and regulations and everything that goes into approving a condo, because it's very important to remember that when you are getting funding in the form of a mortgage for a property, it's not just the buyer who's getting approved for that funding, it's the house or condo. So it's very important to have someone who's local, who understands our market and understands the properties that are here. And we have ties with lenders that we work with all the time that, you know, if something goes wrong, we know who to track down. It's not as easy to do that with a bank, and they're just not as knowledgeable as our local lenders. That's just one example, but I've run into lenders who are not familiar with our area, they're out of state, and they're used to the properties that they sell in their market. Whereas here we do have a lot of condos. We have a lot of out of state and international owners here too. We are kind of a tourist community. So FIRPTA can be a big thing, which is around a foreign owner selling their property, and the taxes around that sale. So if you're a lender who doesn't work with international sellers a lot, you might not be as familiar of what needs to be done prior to close to make sure it closes smoothly. So that's just one example. Lenders, you know, then we have inspectors, making sure there's tons of inspectors out there. Do you have someone that you know and trust? Probably not. You probably don't work with inspectors very often. We work with them constantly. So really any kind of vendor that goes along with the buying and selling process, we have, you know, a top list of ones that we recommend that we know are great, and that we can pass along for you to, you know, vet on your own and find the best fit for you. But at least it's a starting point. I can't even imagine if someone had to try to buy on their own without the help of an agent, because I think they would be mind blown at how much work goes into scheduling properties, especially multiple properties in a day, mapping it out based on location, timing it out based on, you know, how long it typically takes to tour a certain type of property, size of property. Lock boxes are always in random places. They're not always on the front door. And people use multiple kinds of lock boxes. Electronic is the best way to go. We have access, and our brokerage is really great about using the best technology to make the process smoother. And so electronic lockbox is awesome because it ties into a program that makes it easy to schedule. It ties into feedback that the buyers can give their agent to provide to the seller. And it's all tracked electronically, so you know who's going in and out of your property and at what times. But not everyone uses those. There are agents who use old-fashioned combo. There are agents who need to be present. There are agents who are more of like a flat fee, so they make the seller do all the work and you have to coordinate that with the seller. So all those things make scheduling much more difficult, if you can imagine. And yeah, it's navigating all of that. That's just one piece of the process. And then there's so many other factors that go into a transaction that we do constantly. And so we know how to navigate that process very easily. Whereas if you're doing it on your own, it's gonna be much harder. When you are selling condos in an area very frequently, you kind of start to pick up little bits and pieces of knowledge of each one. You know which ones have certain rental restrictions. You know if someone's looking for an Airbnb, these places are not gonna be a good fit, and these are gonna be where we wanna start looking. And those things are really top of mind. Pets, that's a huge thing. A lot of people like to vacation and bring their pets. And not all condos approve of pets being there, and if they do, they have restrictions around weight, how many you can have, what kind of pet. So those are things that we start to learn over time too. And I don't think everyone thinks of that, you know, narrowing down that process when they start looking. They might just be clicking on sites and being like, oh, this place looks great. It fits what I'm looking for, but they're not thinking, do they allow rentals? Do they allow pets? And that might be something that's important to them, and they're not even thinking to look into that. But that's something that's always top of mind for an agent.